This week's Race of the Week comes from the TCR UK Touring Car Championship Round 1 at Brands Hatch. A beautiful spring day here in the UK and an excellent race between the top 6 drivers sets up the championship beautifully for the rest of the season.
Yeah, almost time to find out then. Jeff Holden's in position at the back of the grid. It is time for another season of racing in TCR UK then. Who is going to come out on top in Season 7? The red lights are on. When they go out, we're away in racing here at Brands Hatch. Can Callum Newsham get off the line? Well, it looks as though he will. But look at Carl Baldley come steaming up the middle of both of them as a hip check immediately. But Anderson will get the lead. The Lincoln Co. leads into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time, whilst Carl Baldley tries to sail around the outside of Callum Newsham, which I think he will do. Look at Luke Sargent further back, banging doors with Will Powell. Anderson leads the way. Newsham coming back at Baldley and steams back through into second position, but he was right to be nervous about the start. Out wide now goes Luke Sargent. That's Joe Marshall in fourth, Adam Shepherd in fifth position. A very feisty opening few corners, Jack.
Yeah, it's proper touring cars, isn't it? All of a sudden they're back when we've been waiting for it, but Victor Anderson going to probably complete the first lap in the lead of this race, with Joe Marshall just holding off Adam Shepherd there. Callum Newsham's managed to just shake off Carl Baldwin for the time being, trying to get their nice cutback on the Victor Anderson. Our new race leader is going to lead the way over the line, though, isn't he? The Swede who's come across just for one-off racing is showing the TCR UK how it's done.
Well, can he lead from the front, though? This is going to be interesting. Newsham will be determined to try and get back past him. Oh, no, that's Luke Sargent around contact, I think, with Brad Hutchison. And Sargent's brand new Cupra gets dumped into the gravel trap. He will do well to dig his way out of there, but I think he's managed to. So Luke Sargent continues, but that's a real shame because he'd had a really, really promising start to the race. But he and Brad Hutchison tangling at Paddock Hill Bend. We see that time and time again, don't we?
You can see it coming from a mile away, to be honest. Even as our camera panned, you can sort of see in the background a blue car just looking up the inside of Paddock Hill. You need to be all the way up the inside to try and make that move stick. And clearly it didn't work. Don't know whether maybe there was a turning across, a closing of the door, but either way it resulted in Sargent obviously going off the road, and I'm sure there will be conversations about that. Far too complicated for us to understand that deal to get involved in, but that is for the judicials afterwards, I imagine. The top 3 pulling away quite nicely as Marshall tries to hold off. Sorry, that's not Marshall, is it? It's
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is Marshall, yep. Sorry. Yeah, Marshall holds off Adam Shepherd.
Yes, he does. There goes Will Beach through, looking back for Luke Sargent. There is Luke Sargent, just in behind Rick Kerry. So he dropped down to 10th position from 6th, which was by far the best we've ever seen, really, from Luke Sargent. But unfortunately, his race has been derailed, but it's not over completely. Here he is. Look up the inside of Rick Kerry into Graham Hill Bend. Rick leaves the door open sensibly, because I don't think there are many things that would keep Luke Sargent behind right now. He is a fired-up Luke Sargent. He knows he's got the pace, but now has it all to do again.
Yeah, the red mist can be a great thing, it can be the worst thing, can't it, as well? Like, when you're making decisive, assertive manoeuvres, unlike that. Sargent's gone off again. Sargent's gone wide as we're distracted at the inside by the Audi. Again, still hip checking. Was that the Cupra? I can't actually see who that was. Victor Anderson gets the fastest lap of the race, as there's still people, body parts flapping, people going side by side across the line. This is, well, the TCR's back in it.
What was that you were saying about cars looking immaculate? That didn't take long, did it? That, I think, is Brad Thurston's car with bits of bodywork hanging off it. He's got Darren Lewis and Rick Kerry still trying to battle away with him. This is a nice little gaggle of cars heading through Druids. They've got Jeff Holden not far behind in the Vauxhall as well. But it is the Audi of Brad Thurston that muscled his way through there. That is Adam Shepherd, meanwhile, at the inside of Joe Marshall. So Adam Shepherd's car, touch wood, still going, and is about to go into 4th place, is it? He's got the overlap, he's got the inside line for the timing line, and that will become the inside line for Paddock Hill Bend. But Joe Marshall is going to stand his ground if he can. Is he brave enough to go around the outside, or does he instead try and get the switch back? It looks like he goes for the latter of those options, but it's not going to be successful. Adam Shepherd slips through into the top 4.
Yeah, I think Marshall did the best he could there in just trying to hold on to the back of Shepherd. He knew that the move was just going to hold him up, and really, you've got to look backwards as well. You've got to think about what Brad Hutchison is thinking about doing just behind. He's obviously trying to catch up. He's trying to make moves. A bit of a debris on the track there, but the front 3 sort of pulled away, and then the battle for 4th place almost looks just as heated, doesn't it? It'll be interesting now to see what if Adam Shepherd's car continues to work, and 2, how quick he is now he's in that free air, because the fastest lap of the race currently is held by Callum Newsham at 48.57. That was on the previous lap. They're just about to cross the line now. doesn't look like anybody's going to beat it this time round. What can Adam Shepherd do now he's got that free space?
Newsham hops over the curb through Paddock Hill Bend. Well, on that previous lap, Shepherd did a 48.7. That was only half a tenth maybe slower than the race leader, but of course there was an overtake involved there. So this next lap is going to be really interesting. I would say to the eye, he's already starting to bridge what was a 1.6 second gap between himself and the reigning champ Carl Boardley. Along the Cooper Straight we go, already a quarter of the way through this opening round of the championship, and what must be going through Callum Newsham's mind now? He did everything right in qualifying. He managed to pip the pole position, but just could not beat the Lincoln Co driver into Paddock Hill Bend, and now overtaking around here, Jack, is not going to be the work of the moment.
No, and Victor Anderson, he'd never driven Brands Hatch up until this weekend, so every lap he does, you can only assume that he's learning an extra little bit. He's learning a little bit harder. There we go. What did we say? Adam Shepherd, fastest lap of the race, a 48.5, a tenth quicker than, no, not quite a tenth, half a tenth quicker than Callum Newsham as he looks all the way around the outside of Victor Anderson. He's making him defend, isn't he?
Oh, Anderson suddenly seems to be off the pace. He's really slowed down the hill into Graham Hill Bend, and Callum Newsham looks to try and get the better run out of the left-hander, but can't quite get the overlap. Now, this is playing beautifully into the hands of Adam Shepherd. You can see him in the background. If the race leader starts to defend, then that gap between the top three and the rest is going to vanish in a heartbeat. Newsham tries to look up the inside at Clearways, but it looks to me all of a sudden, Jack, as though that Lincoln Co is starting to develop a little bit of understeer, and we are only a quarter of the way into the race. This is concerning for the race leader.
Well, Victor Anderson, he's maybe learning the track. He might know how to do it quick as you like in a qualifying lap. As Callum Newsham looks up the inside into Paddock Hill Bend, lights up. Coming on the back end of Victor Anderson's car, Newsham hops over the curb. He couldn't quite get all the way up at Paddock Hill, but as he dives towards Druitt, it looks like he's going to have the position. Carl Boardley's there to pop up any scraps, but Andy, I don't think he's going to make it.
No, he's not, because the next corner's a left-hander. That favours Victor Anderson. What does Boardley do? He's going to try and slot in as well. Newsham goes for the switchback, but doesn't have the traction off Graham Hill Bend. This is a sensational opening race of the championship, and it's about to get more exciting because they really are holding each other up now, and Adam Shepherd is almost there with them. Into Clearways corner they go. This is the 8th time of asking. Anderson again, not making friends with the apex. Newsham over the curb on the inside, but he just cannot find a gap, Jack.
No, he can't. As I was about to say, there's one thing hot lapping Brands Hatch, there's another thing racing around it and knowing where to defend. Boardley has a headache. Boardley trying to go around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend. It's a completely different idea to what Newsham had. Trying to get that cutback experience from Boardley here, going into Druitt. Victor Anderson might get away here as Boardley up the inside into Druitt. Callum Newsham, and then Adam Shepherd just behind as well. Joe Marshall's probably looking at this and thanking the Lord because he has an opportunity to jump on a podium here. Shepherd's right with them.
All those years of tin top and short oval experience got Carl Boardley that second place, because did you see what he did on the exit of Druitt? He leant on Newsham, forced him wide, and didn't allow Callum the inside line into Graham Hill Bend. That's probably what Callum should have done to Victor Anderson a lap ago. So the reigning champion is into second position. Now what can he do about the race leader? Out of Clearways we come then. We have 12.5 minutes still to go, and it's a four-way fight at the front. Victor Anderson somehow still leads the way. Carl Boardley in second place is only half a second back, and then this is the battle for third. The charging Adam Shepherd at his local track, genuinely seeing half a chance of winning this race. He's on the tail of the leading three, but Callum Newsham is going to be getting more and more frustrated with each lap that goes by.
Yeah, it's stunning, isn't it? It's exactly what we wanted with 12 minutes to go. In this sort of setup, Victor Anderson in on the mix, having to learn how to defend and how to attack where the overtaking opportunities are on the fly against very experienced drivers who have driven Brands Hatch Indy 1,000 times, as we see a big puff of dirt coming out of Clark Corner, but I can't quite see who it was.
I think it was Jeff Oldham, given the fact a very dirty Astra has just gone past our commentary position, but that's good news. It means he's not stuck in the gravel trap, and no need, therefore, for a race interruption. Out of the final corner we go, and is it me, or is that lead gap starting to grow now? Well, no, it's pretty static, actually. Came down, in fact, by about half a tenth, so never mind. Through Paddock they go. 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 of them, with Joe Marshall just struggling to bridge that gap, and Brad Hutchison still sat in 6th position, but they've all concertina together at Druitt. It does look to me, Jack, as though Victor is struggling with understeer. The front of the car just not really hooking up with the apex, and Carl Boardley will be seeing that. He'll be sensing an opportunity, and he'll be almost sizing him up, won't he? Just waiting now, trying to figure out where his opportunity will come.
It's very difficult to break into Clark Curve, it has to be said. I've never done it in a front-wheel drive, obviously, but from a rear-wheel drive perspective, I know it's very difficult, and maybe that's why Victor Victor Anderson is struggling to get that tighter line into the apex. I mean, he is still making the apex, just a later one. He's straight lining the exit a little bit more, which is why he's gaining that gap from what we could see, but then it sort of loses it as he goes into paddock hill because he's not quite as hot on the brakes. Callum Newsom's the only driver who loves to jump up on that curve, isn't he, really? It's a bit of a different line, and I'm not entirely sure if it's working as well for him, to be honest, because I imagine it's sort of unsettling the car a little bit, and he's sort of struggling to keep it back, but he knows a lot more than me. He got pole here, didn't he? So let's face it. But nobody else seems to be doing it. I wonder if that's anything to do with why Carl Balding was able to make the move and why Callum Newsom wasn't, or whether I'm just reading too much into it.
Well, that's sort of our job, I suppose, but that Hyundai does look a little bit softer than some of the cars around it, as if it's set up specifically to do that, and you know, that could well affect the way the car's going to handle in the second half of the race, because we are only now approaching half race distance. It's hard to imagine, really. We've had a whole race worth action and still 10 minutes to go. Having said that Anderson's struggling with understeer, he gets off Clearways and Clark Kerr really well, doesn't he? He was telling me earlier on today that the Lincoln Co.'s big advantage is really on corner entry, braking into the corners, but it seems to have decent traction off the turns. It's just the mid-corner space where he's lacking speed, where he's lacking, but as long as he parks the car on the apex and doesn't let it drift out too wide, Carl Baldley, with his championship hat on very much, will not necessarily want to take a big risk.
No, it's all about knowing your car, isn't it, really? I mean, I know we were talking about the balance of performance earlier on, but that doesn't mean that each car doesn't have its own individual characteristics. Some people, some drivers might say that, let's say the Hyundai is soft, so it likes to ride the curve. The Audi might have a top line, top end that's a little bit stronger to go into the corners. Each car will have that individual sort of make, but it's about knowing those cars, and that's what we were saying in qualifying about the drivers having to learn the cars that they've had to jump into. Adam Shepherd being one of them. Callum Newsom's obviously been in that car last year. So was Carl Balding. So it's no real surprise to see that they've started just as strong as they finished.
Now they've got traffic on the horizon. This is Jeff Alden's Astra. Where does he go? Pulls out of the way. Nice driving, Jeff, to allow the leading group through. Carl Baldley really closes up through Paddock Hill Bend and Druids, but then the second half of the lap just seems to drop away slightly back into the clutches of Callum Newsom, who hasn't given up on his hopes of winning this race either and grabbing a first career victory in TCR UK. He's very, very close to the back of Carl Baldley's car. Tries to take the wide line into Clearways to cut back to the inside at Clark Kerr, but Carl Baldley sees off that particular challenge. It does have a bit of a pressure cooker feeling to this to me though, Jack, because Victor Anderson cannot get away, that is fairly obvious. Carl Baldley can't really settle for second because he's under so much pressure from Newsom. Snap for Newsom, really. He's got Adam Shepherd right behind him. At some point you feel something has to give.
Well, Shepherd and Newsom are not sitting there out of choice. They are flashing the lights. They are giving everything to try and get past. Not that anybody's going to take any notice of flashing lights, but they're there to try and put them off. They probably can't even see them with the sun shining. But you know, it's not like they're trying to say, okay, I'll just happily sit here into the last 5 minutes. No, Callum Newsom wants to be the driver to go and take the fight to Anderson. He saw one opportunity, he didn't take it, he failed at that. That lost him the position for second place, and he's lost the responsibility to face forwards. Carl Baldley, I don't think, really has the overall pace of what we've seen this weekend to challenge Anderson for the race win, whereas we know Newsom does. The problem is Newsom doesn't have the track space, so it's a bit of a cat and mouse situation now, and I think Victor Anderson will probably be quite happy seeing Baldley in his rearview mirrors compared to Newsom. Just a thing.
Yes, I suspect you may well be right. Callum Newsom's race, they're not quite going to plan for the time being. Unfortunately, he's also lost the lap record in this race. He set that here at the back end of last season, but Adam Shepherd has managed to beat it by about half a tenth. So that fastest lap of the race for Adam Shepherd is a new lap record around the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. So really just sort of illustrates that point, doesn't it? That the level of competition on this grid has definitely taken a step forward. Drivers have found an extra bit of performance, be that in themselves or a new car, and Adam Shepherd now looks to try and use that to break into the podium places. We are 16 laps in already to this opening round of the TCR UK Championship. Victor Anderson continues to lead, and I think technically has led the entirety of the race. He's led at the line at the end of every lap, but never, Jack, by more than a car length or two.
No, I don't think it's as easy as he was probably hoping, was he? This TCR UK malarkey, and I think everybody else, that might be, said in the sort of preview, it might just up the bar a little bit to make everybody else sort of push that little bit harder as a couple of other drivers jump out of the way with blue flags and stuff like that. Well done to them. A couple of more actually. And Carl Baldley, I don't know whether Victor Anderson got a little bit caught up there with Was that the 28th of Thurston,
Yeah,
the RS3? Yeah, so the Gen 1 RS3. That's all of a sudden allowed Boardley to have a little bit of a think about it and give Anderson something to think about. He's going defensive into Paddock Hill Bend.
Yes, and we know that car's been prone to a bit of understeer. Does that mean he washes wide on the exit? No, it's Boardley who goes wide, and Callum Newsham sees an opportunity, goes to the inside line for second place, but Boardley sends it round the outside instead, almost challenges for the race lead. Out of Druids they go. It is somehow still the Lincoln Co that leads, but Carl Boardley has now got Callum Newsham all over him. Down through Graham Hill, then perfect switchback from Newsham. 10 out of 10. He's up the inside line, and surely through the left-hander at Surtees, Jack, second place will be his.
Yeah, it deserves a round of applause. It doesn't deserve second place. Carl Boardley keeps hold of it. Adam Shepherd's up the inside, going into Clark Curve. Adam Shepherd may well take third place. Callum Newsham goes from hero to zero and is all the way back down into fourth position for him. It's not going his way at all.
Oh, poor old Callum Newsham really hasn't done anything wrong in this race. Every time he tries to go forwards, it doesn't work, and he ends up losing a place. Adam Shepherd then is on the podium with 5 minutes left to try and do something about the two in front, but that was all caused by Victor Anderson getting a slow run off the final corner, slower than normal. He defended at Paddock, and it bottled the whole group together.
That's stunning, isn't it? Really, and there goes Callum Newsham again, trying to just nibble a crowbar, a little gap open from Adam Shepherd, but he wasn't having any of it. Slammed in right shut. This is my position. I will go forward. If you want to get forward, you'll have to follow me, son. And well, Carl Boardley again looking in his rearview mirror. He'll have a little bit of a gap. 4.5 minutes is a long time to hold on to a position in TCR UK. I'm learning that quite quickly, Emma. You probably know that already. But I mean, just a reminder for Adam Shepherd fans out there, he started in 8th.
Yes.
After a penalty and his car breaking down twice in qualifying. So he's not out of the woods just yet, but it's an impressive performance so far.
Started 8th after only one test session yesterday, half a qualifying session this morning with a car that kept breaking down, and then he genuinely, about half an hour before the race, told me he didn't think he'd be out on track. And here he is in third position. He's done this before here at Brands Hatch, though. The first year he came to Brands Hatch, there was a race, I think it was maybe race 3 of the weekend, where, again, half an hour before the race started, he told me, no, I'm going home. I've sent all of my guests home because I'm not going to get out for the last race. They fixed the car, they got him on track, and guess where he finished? On the podium. That was his first ever podium in TCR UK, and he might be about to add another to that tally.
Always the way, isn't it? Sometimes it's just the pressure being lifted that can help that sometimes, isn't it? And you never know when your good luck is actually going to strike, and if you're Callum Newsham, you're probably thinking it's never going to strike. To be fair, if you're Adam Shepherd, you probably think it was never going to strike either. But Carl Boardley holding on to that second position very well. He'll be satisfied in the knowledge that if he comes second place behind Victor Anderson, not the end of the world, because he fully well knows that Victor is probably not going to be here for the rest of the season. That means that it's as good a point scoring as anybody can ask for, really, for Carl Boardley. There is a long way to go, though, for the time being. So I can tell you what I'm jealous of. I'm jealous of you and Paul getting to cover this tomorrow in the commentary box. I'll be watching from the sideline, trust me, but it's going to be sensational stuff tomorrow with the top 10 reverse grid as well. Oh, my days.
Exactly, we haven't even got to the reverse grid race yet. That's normally the best race of the weekend, but it will take quite some doing to top this one. Brad Hutchison, by the way, has just been in and out of the pit lane. I'm not sure whether that was to serve a drive-through penalty. We did hear that his collision with Luke Sargent was under investigation, but haven't actually heard any official word as to a penalty, so maybe it was damage, maybe it was an issue. Interestingly, he's rejoined the circuit, and guess who the car behind him is? Luke Sargent. So the two who tangled at Paddock Hill Bend earlier on have found each other once more, but that is not where the attention needs to be directed. We have 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go, and Carl Boardley has not given up on a race win. It seems to me, Jack, that ever since Adam Shepherd broke through into third position, he might have the new lap record, but he doesn't seem to have the pace to go after the leading two. That's actually, ironically, relieved a bit of the pressure from Carl Boardley. Will that be what he needs to go and unlock the door for the race lead?
I think the first two corners, Boardley is very strong on the brakes, isn't he? But it does seem that Victor Anderson has the flow of the back half of the circuit quite nicely, which is helping him just to not have to worry too much about behind. Obviously, Druids, we know, is such a powerful overtaking manoeuvre, but really Boardley needs to be right on the back bumper of Anderson's car now to then force him into a different line going in. But you'll probably see going into Druids, look at sort of how much they can close in. That Cooper's really strong. I mean, he outbroke himself there, but he's really strong on the brakes, even if he doesn't outbreak himself. But as soon as they go towards Surtees and Clark Curve, it just seems that Anderson has a flow through Surtees that is sort of meaning that he's just got something. He's got an extra tenth or so in this sector of the track that the others don't, which means he's just sort of invulnerable to a move potentially.
Yeah, which is interesting because this is the part of the circuit I identified that he seemed to be struggling at, but it goes to show what I know, because actually he's getting off this corner better than anyone, and that means that he's free from attack into really the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit up at Paddock Hill Bend. That is where they head now, with time for 2 more laps. So this is the penultimate lap of what has been a very, very entertaining opening round of the championship. Carl Boardley heading through the part of the circuit at which he seems to excel, and there is more traffic up the road. I think that might be Mark Smith's Cupra, and just ahead of it Will Beach's Golf. So Anderson not out of the woods. One little mistake here, and Boardley is more than within striking range.
On the last lap, it was 0.2 of a second to the advantage of Carl Boardley. So there is still pace in him. Victor Anderson is not impervious to losing this one, but as you said, he is in the driving seat. He could end up, if he just gets past this traffic on the straight, how well behaved is the traffic going to be? It's, as I see, a 22 of Kerry in the Cooper TCR. Not as well behaved as Victor Anderson would like, having to make him lunge up the inside going into Paddock Hill. That's going to put him right offline. Kerry needs to move out of the way. And here comes Carl Boardley. He'll see that opportunity, and so will Shepherd into Druids. There's lockups, there's contact. Shepherd wants to get on the inside of Carl Boardley, and I think he might manage it.
Oh, here we go through Druids for the final time. There was definitely contact from Shepherd to Boardley. They're all still there. They're all still in the same position, but there is damage to the back of Boardley's car, to the front of Shepherd's car, and that might have just let Victor Anderson off the hook. Towards Surtees they go for the final time. This is one of those races that you wish hadn't been shortened by 5 minutes, but this is the final lap of the race. Into clearways they go. Victor Anderson, I think, is going to do it. He didn't quite get pole position, but it is going to be a victory on debut for both Victor and for the Lincoln Co. What a sensational drive. Victor Anderson wins round number 1 of TCR UK here at Brands Hatch, with Carl Boardley second and Adam Shepherd on the podium in third and Callum Newsham in fourth. What a race that was, Jack. TCR UK is back in style.